In today's video, we are going to be playing one of Modern's oldest archetypes. This archetype is called Zoo. Zoo is known for being a low-to-the-ground aggressive deck that tries to tempo out the opponent by playing efficient creatures that are large and in charge. With the recent printing of the Triomes and Modern Horizons 2, the archetype has finally found its shell. The goal of the deck now is to play a burn-esque strategy with tricky to deal with threats and to have some card advantage. This is possible due to the Modern Horizons 2 creatures that are in this deck, specifically Territorial Kavu, Scion of Draco, and General Rockrick. Territorial Kavu is a 2-mana Star that reads, Territorial Kavu's power and toughness are each equal to the number of basic land types among the lands you control, meaning that this is a 2-mana 5/5 if you have the right lands. And Scion of Draco is a 12-mana 4/4 flyer that reads, this spell costs 2 generic less to cast for each basic land type among lands you control. And lastly, we have General Rockrick, which is a 3-mana 3/1, hexproof from monocolored, and it says whenever you cast a multicolored spell, create a 4/4 red and white golem artifact creature token. And with these 3 hard to deal with creatures, the deck also runs 8 copies of Cascade creatures, Bloodbraid Elf, and Shardless Agent, meaning no matter what, your creatures are going to be either 2-for-1ing or having a hard time to get off the battlefield. And with these creatures having a fast clock, we also run 4 Tribal Flames, which is a 2-mana sorcery that reads, Tribal Flames deals X damage to target creature or player where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control, meaning this is a 2-mana deal 5 to target player. Additionally, we have 4 Lightning Bolt and 4 Lightning Helix solidifying our burn plan. And finally, we also have Leyline Binding, which is a new card that just deals with any non-land permanent and it only costs 1 white if we have all land types. While the cards in this deck are very powerful, there is 2 flaws with the deck. One, the mana base is very hard to deal with. This is due to the fact that you always want 5 different land types to enable all of your spells. And secondly, we don't have any 1-drops beside a Lightning Bolt, so being on the play with this deck is huge. But today we are going to be taking this list and running it through a Modern League to see how good it actually is. We're on the play for match number 1, and the hand just doesn't have enough land, so a mulligan. Our 6 is much better, we'll put back this Plains. Turn 1 we'll play our Triome. Then it goes turn 1 Saga into Amulet, so we must be up against Titan. Another land, an okay draw. We'll grab a Steam Vents, and then that means we have all 5 types, and play a 5/5 on turn 2. Opponent has another Amulet, into a bounce land, into a Dryad, into another Dryad. Do they have a turn 2 Titan? Into another Dryad. Lands a fine draw, attack the opponent for 5. We will loot away this land, find another Leyline Binding. I believe that we are just going to take out one of these Dryads now. We'll just hold up a Leyline Binding. Float a blue off of Saga. Play out a bounce land. We'll let them do their shenanigans. Play bounce land again. So now we will Leyline Binding one of these Dryads. We will grab a white source through Temple Garden, take out a Dryad, which means they don't have any more land drops for the turn. Oh, but they had an Explorer. Yep, they cracked the map for a Teleria West, Telerios for a Summoner's Pact. They packed probably for a Titan. With 2 Amulets on the board should be pretty trivial, but maybe they don't have the win here. They grab Simic Growth Chamber and Valakut. Nope, they just had another Titan. Okay, so it didn't end up mattering anyways. They give both of these haste, and that should be lethal, so we will scoop them up and get into the sideboarding. Bring in our Artifact and Enchantment Hate for Lightning Bolt effects. For game 2, our 7 looks pretty sweet, so we'll keep. Just play out our land and hold up Tear and Bolt. Opponent plays Vesuva, copying our Wooded Foothills. We'll find an Endatha Triome. Tribal Flames is a fine draw. Opponent plays out Urza Saga and we'll just tear it. It did nothing, so this means that we get to resolve our Rotrick. And next turn we have a pretty good lineup of either Shardless or Bloodbraid. Opponent just plays a Turf and says go. Discarding a Force of Vigor. We find a Kavu, which Shardless trigger, make a Construct or a Golem, and cast a Kavu, making another Golem. I'm not sure if the opponent has any outs here. They play out an Azusa off of a basic forest into a bounce land and a Valakut. Find another General. We'll just attack in with everything. Loot away to General. Find a Bloodbraid. Opponent does have a Force of Vigor, so that will keep them alive potentially. They take all of it. We don't have a way to kill them here, so I will just pass the turn, bolt them on the instep, and then hope to Tribal Flames them when we untap. The opponent plays out their land for turn, so we will bolt the Azusa, which gives them no more land drops, and this means they might not be able to Primeval Titan. And they scoop them up after bolting the Azusa. Let's get into game 3. Game 3, our hand has no artifact or enchantment hate, so we got a mole. Our 6 is a little slow, but we will keep this. Opponent just plays a T-West tapped and passes. We draw Tribal Flames, we'll just play land and pass. Opponent just plays a bounce land. Seems like a slow start for them. Grab a Triome, the land off the top. So we'll just do land and go. Opponent goes Azusa into 2 extra land drops. We'll grab our other Triome here, into another Flames. We'll just hold up Leyline Binding this turn. Opponent goes Saga into an Expedition map. They crack the map, find a bounce land, bounce their Teleria West, transmute Key West, finding a Summoner's Pack. We find a Scion this turn. Our mana's a little awkward here, so we will end up just playing out the Scion. Oh, it does play out an Amulet, and just passes. Grab a Temple Guard on their end step. Not sure why they didn't go for anything. Maybe they're afraid of a counterspell. Another Tribal Flames. Hack in for 4. They cast a Force of Vigor on our Scion. We'll play land into Knight of Autumn, and we'll destroy their Urza's Saga. Now we'll just hold up Leyline Binding. They cast a Pact, grabbing a Titan. Cast Titan. They find 2 Simic Growth Chambers. They play out another one, bouncing their Valakut. They play an Alter Ego. Okay, so I guess we have to... I've never seen this card. Leyline Binding the Primeval Titan in response, and it just resolves, which means this will copy... Oh, Knight. Oh my god. And now they can destroy this. Yeah, I'm not sure if we had any other play here, though. No matter what happened, they're going to have a Primeval Titan. And they find Boros Garrison and Slayer Stronghold, giving this haste. I don't think we have any outs at this point. Yep, and we take 8. Find a Bloodbraid Elf. I think we have to just kill this Primeval Titan. Now we're going to have to hope that our Bloodbraid Elf does some good work for us. Yep, and now they just found a Dryad off the top, and they have Valakut, so we'll concede there. They just have lethal. We'll get on to match number 2. Match 2, we are on the draw, and we only have green mana, so we'll out the mole. Our 6 is much better. We'll just put back a land and keep. It just plays out a Misty. We will also play out a Misty. They found a Triumph and then play an island. We fetched up the Ndatha. We drew a Forest for turn. Fetch up a Steam Vents and play out a Kavu, and they just counter it. They play out a Zygoth Triumph. We find a Bloodbraid. We'll play Scion, holding up Leyline Binding for the turn, and they just counter that one as well. It just runs out of Floodstrand. Finds a Shardless, so we will cast that. Find a Tribal Flames. We bop them for 5. When it fetches up an island on their turn, and Prismatic Endings are Shardless. Drew another Bloodbraid, so we will cast Scion, and there's a third counter spell from the opponent. They just run out of tapped land. Find a Helix, which is not amazing against this opponent. Kavu just resolves. Again, opponent just does land and nothing. We found a land, so we'll play out our land and cast the Bloodbraid Elf. Finding Shardless. Talk about value. We'll attack the opponent down to 8. And we'll just exile a counterspell from their yard. And opponent's down to 1. They're drawing 2 with Charm, and they just scoop them up. Let's get on to sideboarding. We'll be taking out the burn spells for some mediocre cards. Game 2, our hand doesn't have any 2-drops, but it has the best card in the matchup, so we'll keep. Find another land, which is an amazing draw. Notably, our opponent plays plains, so that means they won't have counterspell up on turn 2. 4th land for Bloodbraid Elf is relevant, so not sad about that. Opponent shocks in a Hallowed Fountain. We'll just find our Xander's Lounge, another Bloodbraid Elf. We'll fetch and shock and run out our General, and General just resolves. Another plains for the opponent into a Leyline Binding, which does nothing. This means that we can resolve our Teferi. We'll just downtick on nothing to get some value. Play the land that we drew. Back in for 3. Opponent shocked in a Hallowed Fountain and stole our Golem. Found another land. Pick up our Teferi. We will fetch out a basic forest here so we can hold up our Lightning Bolt still. Cast Bloodbraid, get a 4/4. Cascade into another General. We'll cast that for another 4/4. You only get to keep 1 though, sadly. And we'll pass to the opponent. Opponent casts a Solitude. They have to kill a Golem and no attacks from them. Very really putting in work this game. Regardless Agent, a fine draw. But we'll cast another Bloodbraid. Make a 4/4. Cascade. Finding Knight of Autumn. Make another 4/4. We will destroy the Golem that they stole. Attack, and that's lethal. Quick match number 2, but let's get into match number 3. Match 3, we're on the draw with a fine hand, so we'll keep. Opponent goes land into Yawgmoth. We will play our Aired Mesa. Opponent goes land into Strangleroot. Attacks us for 3. Finding Bolt out our mountain. Hold up Leyline Binding this turn. Opponent goes to combat and attacks us for 3. Play out land into Wall of Roots. I will just Leyline Binding the Strangleroot Geist here. Found a Lightning Helix. So we'll shock that in our Stomping Ground and play General. Opponent grabs a Dryad Arbor on the instep. Opponent floats a green and casts an Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing their wall. Play out Yawgmoth for the turn. They cast a Boseiju. We will pick up Steam Vents and shock it in. Attack Strangleroot, drawing a card. Play out a bird. Back in for 4. And we just have to take 4. I think that we're going to just bolt face here. Their life total is a resource in this matchup. Or in general, they're down to 10, which means that we have lethal with 2 Tribal Flames. This is because they did use Yawgmoth a few times. So we'll go for Tribal Flames. Just resolves. That's another Tribal Flames. Yep, an opponent's going to use Yawg in response. Try and find something, but not sure if they can. And with them at 1, I don't think there's any outs. They used Yawg a few times, and they killed themselves. Luckily, we somehow got this game, so let's get on to sideboarding. Bringing out some of our top in for interaction. Game 2, our hand has some good interaction, so we'll keep. Opponent just goes tapped land. Found another land. We'll play out a Mesa. Opponent goes land into Wall of Roots. Found Xander's Lounge on the instep. Dock and Temple Garden, play out the sign that we drew. When it goes land into another wall, into another wall, into a Yawgmoth. We drew Rest in Peace off the top, fantastic. Fantastic draw. Dock in our Sacred Foundry. Play Rest in Peace. Back in for 4 and hold up Leyline Binding. Opponent goes land into a Yawgmoth. Attacks a Wall Root, putting a -1 on the Scion. To remove a counter from Wall, playing out an Ignoble. In response, we will Leyline Bind, trying to kill the Yawgmoth. Binding resolves, you will target the Yawg. In response, the opponent fetches, grabbing the forest, sacrifices a wall, putting a counter on Scion, attacking the other wall to do that again, and then discards Grist, proliferating, killing our Scion. Draw another Tribal Flames. We will just fetch, grab a mountain, I believe, cast the Tribal Flames, targeting them, and cast another one. That's match number 3. Let's get on to match number 4. We're on the play for match number 4. Hand looks great. We'll lead on Heath and plan on grabbing our Triumph. Opponent goes Verdant into a Yawgmoth. Looks like we're up against Yawg again. We will grab our Triumph, all Tribal Flames. I'll just shock this in and use that now. Seems like getting their life total low is very important in this matchup, so that's what we're going to do. Opponent goes land into a Geist, Bloodbraid off the top. So we will fetch a red source here, grab a Foundry. We need a red source so that we can cast Bold and Helix next turn. Run out the General. Opponent plays out a land and plays a Grist, attacks their Geist and kills our General. They attack us down to 7. Find a land, fetch out a forest, cast Bloodbraid Elf. Elf finds Shardless. Shardless finds Helix, and we'll kill the Strangleroot and kill their Grist. Opponent plays out a Yawg. We will play our Leyline Binding out, try and kill their Yawg. They sack their Wolf, giving Shardless a -1/-1. We will bolt their Wolf, attack in for 4, play our land, and pass. Opponent goes Wall into Hierarch and a Strangleroot Geist. Find another land, followed by our Gigantha, and pass to the opponent. Opponent casts an Eldritch, sacking their Strangleroot. They find a Blood Artist. We'll just fetch out a land on there instead. Find another land off the top, fetch out a mountain, cast Gigantha. Still holding up a Helix. Opponent runs out a Yawgmoth and a Grist. Attack their Wolf, killing our Gigantha. And they gain a life off of Blood Artist. We draw Shardless, finding a Kavu. In our end step, they Cord. We have to kill this Blood Artist or we will just die. They find a Yawg. They took up a Grist, sacrifice the insect, putting it on Bloodbraid, play out a Strangleroot Geist, put a counter on our Shardless. Yep, and now they just proliferate and that's them killing us. Get on to sideboarding. Again, just taking out the top end for some interaction. Game 2, our hand has Pithy Needle, which is amazing. We'll just shock in our Sacred Foundry and Needle Yawgmoth. And our opponent plays out Yavimaya, allowing us to have a forest here, so now we can actually get Domain here. So we'll just fetch out a Steam Vents, play out our Kavu. Opponent plays out Urborg into an Innkeeper, now giving us Domain, into a Hierarch. We draw a Rip off the top, attacking for 5, boot away one of these lands, getting a Tribal Flames. Opponent just takes it. We'll run out Rest in Peace, play our land. Opponent runs out of Grist, down ticks, killing Bird and killing our Kavu. They get in for 2 points of damage, and then they play out a Haywire Might, find a land, cast our Scion, hold up Lightning Helix. Opponent sacks their treasure and sacks Haywire Might to kill our Needle. Now I believe that we should kill this Hierarch and limit their mana. Pick up Grist, making a 1/1. They play out a land, do nothing else, found another land, trying to attack down their Grist. Grist falls, we will play our land by Gigantha. The opponent found another land off the top. They shock it in and play out a Yawgmoth. They attack in for 2. We draw another land. We'll move to combat, attack them for 4, and then we will Tribal Flames their Yawgmoth, sack their insect, put a -1 on our Scion, drawing a card, and Tribal Flames just resolves. Opponent plays out a tapped land into another Yawgmoth. They poke us for 1. Found another Tribal Flames, attack in for 3, then we will kill their Yawgmoth again. Opponent sacks their Innkeeper, puts a counter on Scion and draws a card. Opponent just plays out a land, find a Leyline Binding, we'll attack in for 2, play out our Gigantha, and now we're representing lethal. On our instep, they fetch up a Dried Arbor. Opponent just runs out of forest and passes. Find a Tribal Flames, attack in for 7. Opponent blocks Gigantha, but that's still just lethal. Okay, an opponent does have a Force of Vigor. It's good to know about for game 3. We will Tribal Flames the opponent, hold up this Leyline Binding. An opponent concedes. Let's get into game 3. For game 3, I'm going to take out 2 Generals and bring in 2 Bloodbraids. Game 3, our hand looks acceptable. Opponent goes Forest into Hierarch. We will shock in Steam Vents and just bolt the Hierarch. They just play out a Forest into a Strangleroot Geist. We draw basic Plains. We'll play that into Rest in Peace. Opponent plays out a Wall into a land and attacks us down to 14. We find a Shardless Agent. We will just grab a Forest and cast out the Shardless. And we hit a Lightning Bolt. We'll just kill the Strangleroot. Opponent runs out of Grist. Find a Windswept Heath. So we will Tribal Flames the Grist. Pithy Needle. We'll name a Yawgmoth and run out of land. Opponent plays a Swamp and Eldritch Evolutions away at the insect, finding a Haywire Might. We'll fetch up a Triumph. Now we have Domain. We find a Tribal Flames. We'll play out Scion, fetch, grabbing a red source here, and we'll pick up Gigantha. And no attacks for us. Opponent uses Haywire Might, killing our Pithy Needle. Opponent plays out a Yawgmoth and just passes after that. And we find another Tribal Flames. So we'll Tribal Flames the Yawgmoth. They sacrifice their wall, putting a counter on the Scion, drawing a card. Tribal Flame just resolves. We attack in for 5. Opponent has a Force of Vigor, exiling an Eldritch. So opponent just takes 2 instead. Opponent just passes. Down to Kavu. We'll run that out. Attack for 2. Opponent's down to 13. Instead they cast a Chord for 2. Grabbing a Strangleroot Geist. Top deck of birds. We draw a Helix. We'll just attack with Kavu here, and I'm going to discard the Giganta. We pick up a land, not great. Opponent just takes the 5, and that means we have lethal. Tribal Flames into Lightning Helix. And that's match number 4. Let's get on to match number 5. Match number 5, we're on the draw, and hands acceptable. Opponent goes turn 1 T-West, find a mountain. Hope we can get redemption on Amulet Titan. Opponent plays out an Amulet into a bounce land, floating 2, bouncing the bounce land, and they play a Grazer into Valakut, into another Amulet. Regardless off the top, we'll just play Mountain and a Kavu. If they have a Titan, they just have it all wrapped up here. Play out their bounce land, floating 4 mana, and they also have the Pact. This is another insanely good start from the opponent. Nothing we could do really this game. Our only hope is they just don't have a way to pay for Pact here, but I find that unlikely to happen. Opponent just grabs 2 bounce lands, bouncing Valakut and their T-West. They play Xenagos. I'm happy just that we played this one out, because I am just, wow, interesting build. Yep, an opponent just haste up the Titan, and we're not going to be able to win this game anyways, but cool build from the opponent. Let's get on to sideboarding. We're just trimming Helixes in bold for Artifact and Jam and Hate. For game 2, our hand's just perfectly fine. For first turn, we'll just play out Misty and pass. Opponent goes turn 1, land into Amulet. We'll grab Xander's Lounge. Wear Tear is a great draw. Chalk and Temple Garden get Domain online, and hopefully this turn they play out a Dryad and we get to fuse this Wear Tear. Play out Nazusa. Play out a Simic Growth Chamber. Bouncing Beseiju. Nothing else. Draw land. Attack with Kavu. We'll loot away this Wooded Foothills. So they Beseiju our Xander's Lounge here. I guess we will bolt the Azusa. We'll grab an untapped Breeding or a Blood Crypt, and we'll loot away the Stomping Ground. Play out our Wooded Foothills. Fetch Shock for a blue source here. Oh shoot, I messed up. I needed something that could have cast this Knight of Autumn. That's okay. We will just binding the Amulet then. We should have used Wear Tear actually. That's okay though. Play our Mountain for turn. Back in. We'll loot away this Wear Tear by Giganta. Yeah, I played this game terribly. It's okay though. It's not the game we have to play correctly. It's next game. An opponent scoops him up. Let's get into game number 3. And for game 3, I'm going to take out a Lightning Bolt for Hidetsugu. Game 3, our hand just has nothing going on, so we'll mull. Our 6 is also pretty slow, but I guess we'll keep it. Opponent goes turn 1 Gardens, and we draw a General. Follow up with a Beseiju into a Grazer. Put it in a Castle. Find a Scion, which is an amazing draw. We have to fetch up Steam Vents, dock it in, and cast our Scion. Plays out a Gardens into a Dryad, and plays out a Beseiju. Not sure why, because now they have to sack this Beseiju. Not sure if there's a reason why, if that was just a mess up. Temple Gardens is a fine draw. Back in for 4. Play out Knight off of the Temple Garden. We will kill their Dryad. Opponent runs out of Forest, and they don't have the Titan. And this turn, I believe we're just supposed to play out the Bloodbraid here. More mana efficient, and then next turn we can go General plus Flames. And we'll just grab a Mountain here, cast Bloodbraid. Bloodbraid hits Shardless, and Shardless hits Tribal Flames, and we will hit them in the face with that. We'll attack him with the team. Oh, just cast a Force of Vigor, killing Scion. They couldn't kill the Shardless because of Hexproof, funnily enough. They ran out of Saga. On their turn, they make a blue with the Gardens, then cast a Hydroid Crisis for 3, drawing a card and gaining a life. Okay, we draw another General. It's not the best. We'll cast that, play our land. I guess we'll attack with the Bloodbraid. They chump with Grazer. We'll fetch Forest and play out our Tribal Flames in case we top deck a Bloodbraid Elf next turn so that we can cast that. Opponent plays out a Summoner's Pact and grab a Primeval Titan. They play out the Prime Time. They grab a Growth Chamber and I think a Beseiju. Yep, and then they put the Beseiju back into play. Draw another General. And I don't think there's any point in sending in the team here, so we'll just cast a Rockrick, make a 4/4, keep the non-summoning sick one. I have to pay for Pact, but I'm not sure if we can attack here. Yeah, I don't think attacking's worth it, so we'll pass. They trigger Saga, grabbing an Amulet, and then they copy an Amulet with the Gardens. They make another copy. Now with 3 Amulets on the board, I think we might just be dead. They grab Boros Garrison and Slayer Stronghold. They give their Hydroid Crisis +2/+0, haste and vigilance. Yep, and now they can just give it double strike, and this is all that's happening. And then they copied an Amulet after all of this. So we will just double block the Titan, get that off the battlefield, and take 9. They could have just given this double strike and kill us. We fall down to 4. We know the last card in their hand is a land, and that's just lethal. Overall, we went 4-1 with the list. Deck was definitely impressive. We should have lost both games to Titan. Our opponent made a misstep in the last game. I do believe that, this is pretty well positioned. I'm not sure if we can ever beat Amulet. Our sideboard doesn't really look like it's, tuned to beat that deck, and it just seems like a really bad matchup. We're not fast enough to kill them most times. But if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.